Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is our 13th webinar in the Think CX Digital Leaders Tell All series. Today, our two digital leaders will discuss digital customer experience, best practices for airlines and hotels. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask those in the chat area. We'll save about 5 minutes at the end of the webinar to review those. And I'm eager to hear the trends our two speakers will be sharing today. Let me first introduce our digital experts from Evolv, an AI-driven solution for digital growth optimization that serves the best experience to each audience every time. Sam Nazari is the Vice President of Customer Success. Hello, Sam, welcome.
Thank you.
He works closely with Evolv's customers to ensure they have the training, support, and experimentation roadmap to ensure their success. We also have joining us John Tremblay. He's the VP of Marketing at Evolv. Hello, welcome, John.
Hello.
He has over 25 years of experience defining global marketing strategies, working for companies ranging from startups to Fortune 100s. His expertise includes retail, high tech, and telecommunications. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to you two.
Thanks very much, Maren, and thanks all of you for spending the next half hour or so with us. So I wanted to kick it off talking about 5 key trends that we see right now. And the context behind this is obviously it's all about the right customer experience as travel is starting to come back and people are finally deciding that it's time to take on either business or personal trips. But there's some really interesting trends in terms of what people are looking for. And obviously customer experience at the end of the day is about tapping into the psychology of what they're looking for and making sure that you present effectively the right ideas for them. So trend number 1 that we're seeing out there as the year is kicked off is longer and more expensive trips. Obviously, people have been stuck at home. Many of them have accumulated pretty significant time off, hours, and potentially even a bunch of money as they weren't spending money on travel. This is a little bit of an extreme example, but Silver Sea is one of those high-end cruises, and they have a bunch of different packages. Their 2023 World Cruise sold out in a single day. And as you can see, that this is a pretty major thing. It ranges between 138 days to 167 days based on the cruise. They do things like visit 34 Southern Hemisphere countries, and it costs a lot of money. It's like $90,000 to $140,000 depending on your package. So again, while this is an outlier, there's evidence out there that people are just really eager to kind of knock off bucket list items and take on those big trips that perhaps they had deferred. And I think the key point is they're looking for excitement. They're looking for things that are memorable. The second trend, which is a little different, is nomad travel. And I know that's something, Sam, that you personally have experience with.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the work from home trend has resulted in a rise of traveling digital nomads. And these are basically individuals who leverage technology to work remotely and taking extended trips during this. And, work is no longer defined by being in a physical office. And as long as you have good Wi-Fi, you can work from just about anywhere. I took advantage of this over the last year, working from Park City, Utah, getting out of San Francisco where everything was shut down, and just being in the mountains and nature and traveling around, the mountains in Utah. Some countries that have taken notice and are offering short-term visas for these nomad travelers are, for example, the Dominican Republic, Mediterranean countries such as Croatia, some Caribbean countries as well are offering incentives. In Madeira and Portugal, also offering free co-working spaces as well. And this is a new category where you can blend work with pleasure, taking extended trips, which travel companies can capitalize on by offering targeted packages for these digital nomads. I know another key trend is sustainable travel. John, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that you mentioned going to Utah and be in the mountains and kind of get out of the cities, and that's the third trend that we see very loud and clear right now. And this actually is impacting all demographics. We're definitely seeing a lot more people really tuned in and aware of social and environmental issues. In fact, there's been a bunch of surveys that have been conducted, and it's highlighting a lot of people's desire for trips where obviously they can avoid crowds. I think there's still a lot of discomfort with COVID and putting yourself in crammed, busy environments. And also to the point you made, Sam, really trying to engage more into outdoor activities. And what goes with that too is also reducing their footprint and impact on the environment. And what's interesting with that is we're definitely seeing people prioritizing taking on trips where they can visit local communities, they can be part of natural environments and kind of experience the culture for what it is. And that's where they're willing to put more of their money. So, you know, the first trend is really interesting because you're kind of tapping into people's bucket list and these more extravagant, exciting trips. And that is a very key experience that you want to be able to showcase for people that are looking for that, people that are looking for that once in a lifetime trip and blow their minds. And so how do you create a digital experience for that person? Whereas the nomad traveler, it clearly is something totally different, right? This is somebody that's looking for an extended travel, probably a destination travel, where they have the opportunity to blend their work and adventure spirits and whatnot. And then you have this third element to it, which is people that now are very concerned about what's my impact with this trip, and am I going to get to sort of experience local communities? So three very different journeys and three very different experiences that you want to be able to capitalize on. And whether you're an airline or a hotel or a travel site, kind of figuring out how do you construct journeys for these three very different requirements that people have. And so, Sam, you know, related to this is it does bring us to trend number 4, which is the whole connected travel.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about a mobile first case study with one of the recent projects that we had going on. But mobile has effectively become the go-to shopping channel. It's been the linchpin for self-service, and it's also the preferred channel for travelers to stay up to date while they're traveling. And the expectations obviously are an exceptional experience on mobile, and it's at an all-time high. And often the primary reason why a traveler picks one service over another. So travelers want the online booking experience to be convenient, hassle-free, you know, similar to as if you're ordering groceries for pickup. Travel companies need to and are prioritizing an omni-channel experience with mobile really at the center, and recognize that different channels demand very different, integrated, and consistent customer experience. It's critical to also get the handoff from mobile to desktop right, as customers do bounce between these two channels. So this is a trend that we're constantly seeing and have been talking to a number of travel organizations about. One key trend is obviously, I experienced this personally, and I know a lot of folks have, but the anxieties around travel in this pandemic state.
Oh, absolutely. And what we're going to dig into that. It's fascinating to me, though, that, you know, in a webinar like this, we can reference to picking up your buying groceries online and then doing curbside pickup as like sort of the standard, when 12 months ago, that concept didn't really exist anywhere, right? So it just shows just how quickly customer expectations change and how a new baseline gets established very, very quickly. And I think when it comes to travel, there really is such an opportunity, but also it's a challenge, right? Because you have this expectation for a customer experience through your mobile device with lots of different options. And now all of a sudden, people who are looking to travel want that same level of convenience. And we'll talk a little bit about overcoming these anxieties, because it hits some of those. So there's 6 really clear layers of anxieties that people have as they're making plans and as they're conducting travel. And again, I think this is really important to get right, and travel companies need to embrace the fact that they need to do whatever's in their power to help reassure their customers through these various steps, for two reasons. One is obviously to make it as hassle-free and as convenient as possible for that particular traveler. But the second thing is also you'll gain a customer for repeat business, right? If you can help them navigate all these issues and make them feel like, well, thank goodness I used this particular online travel agency, or I used, I love this airline because they streamlined this process for me. I think that's the golden experience. So obviously of the 6 steps, it starts with shopping, right? People looking for a good deal. We're seeing a lot more anxiety around, am I getting the right value? Is this a good opportunity? I know I experienced it myself. I'm a big Delta Airlines person. And as we're starting to resume travel for our own company, I started looking at a couple of trips to Europe that I need to undertake. And it was kind of shocking, the range of prices. And as much as I love Delta, currently their pricing model seems to be pretty high compared to other airlines. So, that creates a dilemma and it creates a source of stress, because I want to stick with my preferred airline, but at the same time, can I justify such a price premium? And really trying to make sure, am I getting good value for what I'm shopping for here, and make it as less confusing as possible. Number 2 is understanding the many requirements and restrictions and regulations, and we know this keeps changing, especially when it comes to any of the pandemic threat, and as it's kind of coming and going into various stages of lockout and things like that. And I would say that that's an area where, when I look across the travel industry, it's an opportunity to provide more information. And a lot of people have their COVID banner and sort of their canned messages about things can change and be prepared for the unpredictable. But I think from a customer experience, anything that you can do to really help them understand, I'm interested in going to this country, and be able to catalog best you can some of the key requirements and considerations that you should have if you're going to that country. And again, it keeps changing. My brother just went to Australia a couple months ago, and they had a hard quarantine for 2 weeks. I mean, it was fascinating, where they had to go straight from the airport to the hotel. It was all monitored. They got to the hotel. They were given a key card. The key card is only good for one entry into the hotel room, and is disabled, because the whole point is they have to go into the hotel room and stay there for 2 weeks. And they've pre-planned the meals and all this stuff. And again, it changes. Every country's different. And it's a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress around how it all works. Number 3 is actually booking the trip. Again, I think, increasingly people are looking for a one-stop shop and making sure that they can get their airfare, their car rental, their hotel, and even more. Like, as much as you can sort of bring all this stuff together and help them coordinate it. I think with the more extravagant trips that we talked about, and even the Nomad travelers, if they're going to do a multi-stop kind of setup, right, it gets quite complicated and confusing, and it goes back to, am I getting a good deal, and is this really the trip that I want to book, and helping bring them along and making sure that they have that confidence when they're hitting the buy button. 4th is access to cancellation and rescheduling policies. So it kind of goes back to step number 2, but this is really more specific to what happens if a county goes back into lockdown. So I live in Oregon, and some of our counties went back into lockdowns, and some of the hotels have done a pretty good job at sort of kind of restating, like, if you had travel plans for that week, now that we're in lockdown, they're not necessarily letting people cancel outright, but they're letting people reschedule with no penalties, and again, sort of dealing with those changing requirements and changing conditions that are impacting people's travel. 5th is facilitating any pre-orders or payments. We're increasingly living in this contactless world. So what can we do to make it easier and better for travelers to be able to understand exactly, hey, can I pre-order my meal? Can I pre-book local transportation and all these things, and just making it super easy for them to pay for it and reduce any of those hassles and having to hand somebody a credit card or cash or things like that, which again drives more of that anxiety. And then the sixth is the check-in process. So, whether it's a hotel or an airline or any of these things, streamlining that process, and also use it as an opportunity to upsell, present upgrades, things that could be available right at that time. And so connecting all these things, and I would say, it's really important that across all 6 of these steps, there's real anxiety, and it's a huge opportunity for anybody in the travel industry to help address this, provide the right experience, help the traveler through every step of this, and establish that trust. And I think that's what's going to make sure that clients will come back and purchase more services from you. So, I mean, obviously Evolv is in the customer experience space. So for us, it's ultimately, how does this all drive back to customer experience, and how do you optimize to address those 5 trends that we discussed? Because I think today it's fundamental to achieving success and possibly gaining a real competitive advantage. And those 5 trends are really driving a lot of the traffic and a lot of the types of audiences that you want to be able to serve a different journey to based on what they're interested. So with travel reopening, and we're definitely seeing a lot more people, both business and pleasure and a blend of both, planning their next trip, there really is no opportunity that you want to lose, right? You want to secure as much of that business as possible. Travel industry conversion rates are at the very, very top of some of the worst. A super high abandonment. I mean, conversions are like sub 1% across the globe. So think about it. You have those eyeballs, you have those people coming to your site. They're looking for a memorable online experience. And if you can serve that to them based on the 5 trends that we discussed, you have a huge opportunity to completely turn upside down those conversions and get a much bigger share of that business. And what's really important from a digital customer experience point of view is the convergence of channels, right? We talked about desktop to mobile handoff. It is very much an omni-channel experience, from maybe shopping on my phone, but then deciding to go to my desktop and purchase, and then obviously maybe going to the airport and using the kiosk to check in. All of these things need to be integrated and need to be well connected together, so it's seamless and people feel like it's a good experience throughout, and you've reduced all that friction. And it's such an opportunity for you to be consistent, to be on brand, and to be highly efficient through all these steps in the user journey. And then the key with that too is, we know they're expecting more and more self-service. So that includes, both the mobile apps and kiosks, even chatbots. So again, thinking about that whole customer experience and how you link all these things together. And again, careful consideration of how you support handoffs and continuity between these different channels, because there's nothing more frustrating than spending a ton of time on your desktop and for whatever reason deciding, I'm not sure. And then you go to the chatbot, and then the chatbot starts to ask you a bunch of questions that you're already in the middle of answering on the desktop. And then somehow the chatbot hands you off to a call center person, and that call center person starts all over, right? Super frustrating. And technology has a way to connect all these things. And I know many of the companies on this webinar are in various stages of digital transformation and addressing some of this, but it's just critical. And at the end of the day, it all goes back to the customer experience, and in our case, trying to get those people to hit that buy button, right? And I think it demands a concerted investment in the right platforms, making sure that over time you can drive towards enabling this connected, cohesive experience, and be able to respond to changing market demands. So Sam's going to walk you through a couple of recent use cases of work that we've done for clients. So Sam, here you go.
Thanks, John. So we'll start with a cruise line optimization. goal is increase bookings during crossover from kind of lower traffic season to peak season. What we really need to take into account is also the changes in user behavior and develop strategies taking that into consideration in the different segments, different demographics. Recently, a CEO of a major cruise line said, they're seeing kind of the more at-risk demographic to COVID-19 actually booking cruises at a higher than expected rate. So taking that into consideration. And in this particular optimization, we have a number of what I like to call shots on target, where we've developed 22 variations across 10 different types of elements. And we have over 46,000 potential design combinations. Running this for about 3 months and almost 400K users. Top performing experience being consisting of 4 out of those 22 that we had put in, delivering 8.4% increase in bookings. And then during this process, with traditional testing, having a 1 in 7 rate of actually producing a winner, the rest being flat or negatively impactful, we actually didn't have to lose to learn and deliver this great outcome. And this top performing experience being harvested on the site. So on the next slide, we can talk about optimizing a one-click booking experience, and then really looking at that kind of mid to lower funnel to getting users over the line. How do you present those more premium cabin options to the user and reinforce that through imagery as they're going through the packages that they've selected and what the benefits are that they're getting, prominence of risk-free deposits, and then also simplifying the lower funnel and the checkout process to the information that you absolutely need in order to actually get that user experience and those friction points removed. And effectively, 4 of those 22 changes, as I mentioned, resulting in a combination over 3 touch points in the user journey, resulting in an $18 million annual revenue impact for this cruise line. And then this is just highlighting the imagery of the cabin selected, and then also increasing urgency for the user to lock in the cabin and the price that they have been offered at the time of booking. And then, as I mentioned before, optional information. They've already gone through a very long checkout process and selecting the packages and the cabin that they want. Anything that's optional can be collected later. Let's focus on the primary guests and get the payment information, and then allow them to easily complete the booking. And then also security, reinforcing that through different types of imagery, as well as the security provider you're using. Very, very important. Also referencing that in the CTA copy as the user is checking out. Seems to be working really, really well with certain demographics that are a little bit concerned, especially when you're making this type of an investment on a cruise vacation, reinforcing it through copy and imagery. Another online travel agency, this one specifically in Japan, focusing on completion of optimizing for increasing completion of travel bookings, and then maximizing conversions effectively by focusing on that first step in the user journey. This one had 11 different types of changes and 15 actual variations to the user experience, 9,000 possible experiences. And the algorithm went through 10 iterations of developing combinations and getting smarter over time until we've actually delivered an experience that was a 6.8% lift. Some of the different types of changes really focusing on increasing urgency and excitement with changing the headlines, discounted bookings, highlighting that there's hotel and airfare packages. Default values, really, really important, changing the number of folks in the room. So potentially less steps for the user to moving forward to the next step. Changing the copy of the actual CTA, design, layout, and hierarchy of these elements do make a difference as users are able to quickly select the dates, the number of users, where their destination is before they actually get into that search results page.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Sam. Yeah, it is fascinating too to see all the cultural differences too, and different use of different devices and different journey expectations. So just in closing, as a wrap up, we wanted to spend time on those 5 key trends that we talked about because it is a pretty significant segment and grouping of people that are looking for those various elements from whichever travel agency or travel company that they're using. So I think the goal for all of you here is, how do you create the right experience that capitalizes on the needs and the psychology of what these folks are looking for? You got to think through the entire journey. This is a very connected world now, and people expect this on-brand and consistent and really good handoffs between different channels throughout the entire journey. So it's really important to make the investments to get that right. And I think there's a lot of frightening statistics out there about how over 50% of consumers will completely stop doing business with a company if they don't have a good mobile app and things like that, right? So these are just real both impediments to your business, but also huge opportunities to be an innovator and to lead the way with a new experience, and perhaps even disrupt some of the space that you're in. And then the biggest thing is, you just got to be able to adapt and be able to continuously make those changes. And I think that is one of the flaws in our industries. People feel like, hey, I just got to find that one experience. And then once I have it, good, I figured it out. But it changes all the time. And we live this every day with our clients, where something that just performed beautifully yesterday all of a sudden stops working today. And we don't completely always understand why, but there's just so many changes in expectations, market conditions, competitive threats, new promos, seasonality, right? That has a huge impact on the travel industry. So the bottom line is, you have to be able to put yourself in a situation where you can continuously adapt and continuously get better at this, and always be looking for that next experience that is going to connect with your consumers. So Sam and I hope you found this useful. And feel free to reach out to us if you want to engage more into this discussion. We'd be thrilled to see how we can help you out. And then do check out our blog. We've been writing a lot about the travel industries as the market's turning around. So hopefully you'll find this useful. And Maren, back to you.
Thanks, John. And also, I included part 1 of the travel blog series in the chat window. So if you want to take a peek at that, that'll take you through the next few topics as well. Thanks for joining us today. And John, Sam, thanks so much for your time. Check out ThinkCX episodes 1 through 12 at evolv.ai. If you have any recommended topics, or you would like to hear something else in the future, please reach out to us at hello@evolv.ai. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.